You are listening to the Lawyer Stories podcast with host Benny Gold. Lawyer Stories was founded in July 2017 on Instagram and is an expanding global network of lawyers and law students sharing their personal journeys to the noble profession of the practice of law. Join us on this podcast as we dig deeper into these stories and hear from lawyers and law students from around the world in all areas of the legal profession. Here at Lawyer Stories, we believe that every lawyer
Welcome to the Lawyer Stories podcast with Benny Gold, episode 52. Today we welcome in Nicoletta Ranieri, founder and principal lawyer at Ranieri Law in Vaughan, Ontario, practicing business, entertainment, media, and IP law. Good to have you with us. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me, Ben.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad we made it work. It seemed like we just booked this like 2 months ago, and the time just flies. So I'm glad,
Yeah, absolutely.
great to see you tonight. So how are things in Canada? What's going on? What's new?
Things are good. I mean, things are starting to open up again. I mean, it was very slow over here compared to where I was in New York, but
Right.
it's been awesome.
So I think one of your hockey teams, I'm not a big hockey guy, but I think one of your hockey teams is doing pretty well. Not the Toronto one, but
Not the Leafs, yeah.
not the Leafs, but Montreal, right?
The Habs are doing well, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So let's just jump right in. We featured you on Lawyer Stories May 19th, 2021. And very interesting story. I went back to read it. I love the story. It's sort of like a little bit of an underdog story, or maybe you made yourself the underdog. I don't know. So we're going to find that out right now.
Right.
So you start out by saying you had ambitions early on, but people told you it was too competitive and you'd never make it. So first of all, when did you know you wanted to go to law school? And then we're going to get into who would tell you that you'd never make it. So you don't have to go into the who, we don't need to call people out on the podcast, but maybe just say maybe talk about why, or what that particular person was saying.
Sure, yeah. I think it was high school. I came from an arts background. I was a competitive dancer for many years, and then I started watching Entourage, and I kind of started to learn what an entertainment lawyer was and an agent was and all that kind of stuff.
So by the way, my last name's Gold, so Ari Gold.
Right? I know, right? That's what
he used to answer his phone. I think I actually did this a few times. He'd be like, "You got gold," and I think I've done that a few times over the course of my life. But anyway, I digress. Go ahead.
Yeah, but yeah, so I loved Entourage. I loved Ari Gold. I mean, I wanted to be the female version of Ari Gold. But
Right.
Yeah, I ended up doing the mock trial team in high school, and I kind of put my two passions together. But I kind of was underestimated for a long time. For I mean, high school, it was in different stages of my life. People were like, "Oh, well, maybe you should reconsider. It's very competitive, or maybe you should do this, or maybe you should do that." But my vision was like I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I knew from the beginning what I wanted to do, and I just kind of rolled with it. I didn't listen to what other people said, and I just
What would they say? They were don't go to law school, go continue dancing? Is that what?
not necessarily. I think people perceive me in a certain way. They kind of pigeonholed me.
Okay.
It's just a weird it just in different stages. But I always knew what I wanted to do, and I wasn't going to give up. And that's basically.
And you knew that since high school. So I mean,
Yeah.
where did you end up going undergrad?
Undergrad, I went to Western University.
Western. Okay. All right.
It's in London, Ontario.
Gotcha. So then you went on to how did you get to New York? You went to New York Law?
Yes.
Which is a very good school, by the way.
I love, you know what? I had it's amazing.
Very good school. I mean, we've featured people from New York Law.
Oh yeah.
On Instagram, I think and that's lawyer_stories, and they're very good school. So tell us how you got there from Western.
So I actually transferred. I was in Arizona, and I actually transferred to New York Law School. But I had an amazing experience in New York, and they have an awesome program. they definitely have a lot of opportunity. They had a lot of like internship opportunities and things like that, especially in the areas that I wanted to do.
Okay.
And it was great. Like New York is such a vibrant city. There's so much opportunity there. It's like it it was great.
Love New York.
I learned so much.
Love New York. Yeah, I lived in downtown New Haven for a little while, and I used to take the Metro. I don't know, like I can't even remember, but I used to take the train to Yankee Stadium or like downtown to visit friends in Manhattan. What were you doing out in Arizona?
So that was just my first year. So I had gone to law school my first year in Arizona, and then I
Okay.
moved to New York. Yeah.
Okay, so you end up in New York, and what areas were you looking at? You said they had like the program that you wanted to focus on. So what was that?
Absolutely. So like I loved entertainment, like I mentioned.
Okay.
I had no idea what law was in my first year. And then in my second year, like, I mean, everybody does the survey courses and things like that. And I absolutely love trademarks and copyright law. And I kind
Okay.
of like specialize in that. And I knew exactly what I wanted to do. So that's what I focused on.
No, that's awesome. So were you actually, just to go back a little, were you born and raised in Canada?
I was, yeah.
Okay. And I know you mentioned during in your story you mentioned I think your mom got sick, your grandfather was sick, but he had like some sort of an influence on your life, and I'd love to hear about that if you wanted to talk about your grandfather a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I brought my family up because they're such an important and instrumental role in my entire life. Like they've always been backing me up and supporting me in every way. And, you know, they were like my biggest supporters. And I learned so much from each and every one of them. They sacrificed so much for their family. And that's kind of, I think I've learned so much from each and every one of them. And I kind of um, have certain traits from them
Yep.
that I will, you know, I kind of instill into my practice and use with my clients and things like that. So, but yeah, no, I think in different milestones. So I was graduating from New York Law School, and my grandfather was supposed to come to my graduation. He was very, very excited. He was renewing his passport and everything. And unfortunately, he passed away a few months before that. And
Yeah.
then my mother, before I started, like after I started my practice a few months later, she had gotten sick with COVID, and that was very difficult and challenging. And then, you know, my grandmother passed away, and unfortunately my grandfather just passed away earlier this month. So it's just kind of been one thing after
So
another.
your other grandfather, that was.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So it's just kind of been like a snowball of certain things. But
Sorry, it's a very tough time, very
it's a
difficult.
tough time, absolutely. Yeah. So I just kind of like, I wanted to shed light on my story and kind of give hope to people. You know, doesn't matter, you know, what you go through in life. You just kind of have to hit the ground running and like move forward, because that's what your family would want from you. They want to see you succeed, and they want to see the best in you. So that's kind of just what I wanted to do. I just kind of wanted to inspire others.
For sure. And I think an important message is like, it just doesn't matter what other people think. Like in high school, like people pigeonholed you. You said it just doesn't matter. You got to do what you want to do. You have to do what's in here and like what feels right. And you can't let people tell you, because on like people who tell you something that they think you should do, they can't do it themselves.
Right.
So I think that might be a part of it. And it's amazing. Like reading your story, you're doing some really cool things, and you have a great story. And I'm really grateful that you're here on our platform sharing it. So thanks again for being here.
Thank you.
So you were in New York City. So tell us about, you graduate New York law school. So take us through like where you went from there, like how long you worked, your first job, and like how long you worked in Manhattan.
Sure. So I graduated in 2015, and I kind of was just, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. A lot of my friends were going to a lot of the bigger firms and, you know, practicing in different areas that I was absolutely not interested in, like personal injury
Yep.
or you know, tax law. That just wasn't for me, right? I really enjoyed, like throughout law school, I had gone to different firms that I had worked with, both small and medium sized, and as well as working in house. And I really liked the hands on experience that I got at smaller firms, because I think that's kind of what um, made me who I am today, because you kind of had to hit the ground running, and you had
Right.
different things thrown at you, and you just had to learn on your feet, and you had to really just yeah. So I think that's what I kind of was like, that's what I was looking for
Okay.
when I graduated from law school. So I ended up uh, working at a firm, and it was an IP business firm, and I really loved the
How did
attorney.
you find your job?
So she was actually a New York Law School grad. So,
Okay,
yep, she was great. She was a wonderful mentor. I
that's
learned a lot
awesome.
from the firm. Yeah, it was a
Would you
boutique.
say that having a mentor is important for law students?
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
I agree with that too. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think you have to learn. You have to learn from other people. You have to learn what works, what doesn't work.
Right.
And she was a great mentor. I mean, I learned a lot from her, and so I had learned a lot more IP work as opposed to entertainment. And that was very instrumental. And then from there, I ended up having the opportunity to work in house. I worked at a luxury goods jewelry company in New York, and it was great. It was a small legal department, and I worked under the general counsel. I would, advise the C-level executives on a weekly basis on certain
Wow.
matters and things like that. So it was great. Not only was I hired to do like the IP work, but I was also hired to do a lot of anything that would come across the desk,
So
right?
how long were you at the first one with the solo?
It was about a year and a half that I was at the firm, and
And
then
then how did you find the in-house gig with the
the
jewelry?
in-house gig was just word of mouth.
See okay, that's great. And
Yeah,
that's why networking is like super important.
100%.
It's like kind of it's good to know some people in the legal field. So that's great. And by the way, before I forget, if you ever see anybody like on Lawyer Stories that you want to connect with and you don't want to necessarily message them, I will be happy to be the liaison and send them a message and do a connection for you. Like that's what we
Thank
want to
you.
do here. So
I
we've
appreciate
had a couple of people in Canada on the show recently, so I'm happy to do that for you. You just tell
it.
me.
Thank you, Ben.
For sure. All right. So you're at the. How long were you with the in-house?
About 2 years.
2 years. Okay. And that. So then, what happened? Were you in New York, or were you just like, I need to get back to Canada?
I was in New York at the time, and I just kind of had the itch. I knew I wanted to come back to Toronto eventually and start my practice. So I think it was just the time, and it was actually perfect timing. It was right before COVID hit, and
Okay.
then I came back and I went through the whole licensing process here.
Right, but and then you were one of the first people to take the exam online, right?
Yep,
In Ontario.
I was. Yeah. So we
What was
took.
that like?
So there's the barrister, and then there's the solicitor
Did you
exam.
take the? Did you take the? I'm sorry. Did you take the New York bar at like the Javits Center, like the?
I did.
So let's think about this. Like, so first you were at this like enormous Javits Center that's like known for like millions of people taking the bar exam, and you passed. That's amazing. And then so now, fast forward to COVID, like 4 or 5 years later, after your first two jobs, and you're like, I have to take the I don't really know what's on the Canada bar exam, but you were like, I have to take this like from home, right? Or so what was that experience like?
So the first exam we had written in similar to the Javits Center. It's called the barrister exam, and then in Ontario there's also the solicitor exam. You have to pass both. And the solicitor exam was the one that I had to take at home. So that was all postponed. So that was postponed for several months, and then I think I had written it in the summertime. But no, that was very different. That was, I mean, like the foundation, like it's all common law at the end of the day, both
Right.
Canada and the US, right? So it was very similar in substance, but there's also those nuances that you need
Right.
to learn. And but at the end of the day, I mean, you just have to put in the work. You have to do the practice exams. You have to just have to.
Do they have a like an MBE?
No, it's
No,
really
really.
all multiple choice. There's no essay,
Wait,
which
wait.
I
I thought you
love.
said
I
you
don't
had to
like
write
multiple
the. I thought you
choice.
said you had to write the solicitor's exam. Solicitor's exam.
Sorry.
Sorry, I thought you said you had to write the solicitor's exam.
Yes,
So there, but there's no.
but it's all multiple choice.
What's all multiple choice?
Both exams, both the barrister and solicitor.
How did you write? Oh, so it wasn't. You weren't writing essays.
No, 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 no. Like it was
Okay,
like multiple choice.
got you. Oh wow. Okay, that's hard though. How many questions? Like 300.
Yeah, it was up there, but yeah, I'm
And
not a multiple choice person. I'd rather write an essay.
me too. So then you have to take a barrister's exam, which is like, isn't that like making coffee and stuff? No, sorry, that was a dad joke, barista. I'm sorry. So You did a barrister's exam. How is that different? Like, is that more multiple choice? Is it more difficult? Is it about talking in front of the court, right? Because that's.
Yeah, so barrister is more litigation. So if you want to go to court and you have to do like civil procedure, that's more of like the barrister. Solicitor is more of like contract work and transactional work.
Okay, and so you're a barrister.
I mean, I passed both, but I mean, I could go to court, but my bread and butter is transactional work. I'm more of a solicitor.
Gotcha. Okay, that's super interesting. Like how they have like do you have like those wigs, right?
We do, yeah, and the garments and everything.
And the garments, but only barrister. Like if you were going to court, you'd be wearing that, right?
Right.
Okay. That's awesome. So, what would you say like the differences between practicing in Manhattan, New York City, and like practicing in Canada? Is there a big difference, or? And actually, what was your first job in Canada?
I actually started my own practice.
So you went right into your own firm? I
went right into my own firm.
Yeah. Okay, let's hear. And how long ago? That was a couple of years ago, right?
No, that was actually September of 2020. That was right.
Wow. Well, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Let's hear about it. What made you want to do it?
I mean, like just my experience in New York, it was great. Like, I mean, it's such a, I mean, you had to hustle in New York. That was just how you had to roll. That's a lot of what you had to do. You had to, survive. So I think I learned a lot in each of my experiences, whether good, bad, even through internships throughout law school. I had a lot of hands-on experience. That's what I think I took into my position and into my firm. And I mean, it's very similar. It's still it's a little challenging. I mean, with COVID and everything, you have to kind of be amenable to change. You have to think quick on your feet. You have to be able to provide clients with certain things. I mean, I'm working virtually right now. I'm eventually going to do like a hybrid thing and be in the office and things like that. But you have to definitely be amenable and yeah.
Wow. So when you did you know when you moved back you were going to start your firm, or did you look for a couple jobs and you were just like, it's a little difficult now. I'm going to just launch my own firm. I have 4 to 5 years experience. Like I can do this.
So I actually was looking for jobs and like you said, and I just didn't feel right. And I knew in my heart that I needed to be happy at the end of the day. I needed to do what was right for me. And I think with COVID and everything, it just kind of pushed me. I knew eventually I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to have my own firm. And I think it just kind of gave me that push. And eventually I decided to start my own thing.
So then, wow, there was, boom, Ranieri Law is there. Vaughan, Ontario. Did I get that right?
You did, yeah.
I feel like there's like 6 cities like in between commas in Canada. So I like never know like if,
okay, no, you're right.
So that's awesome. So tell us about your firm. You come from, here's this person who was trained in New York. You worked in New York, like the most competitive, tough place. And you're like, I'm going back home. Like I'm opening my firm. And tell us about it. Like, how's that been going? Like, we know the areas you practice, but tell us more about it. Like what you're doing, what kind of cases?
Yeah. So I mean, I represent a wide range. So I definitely work with a lot of creatives, a lot of entrepreneurs, small to medium sized companies, and even companies that are also expanding now and becoming multinational corporations. So it's really great to see. I love working with brands from the ground up. I mean, I've done it myself. I've done it many times, and I just think for me, I'm very passionate about it. I love it. It's very exciting. And so I deal with entertainment, IP related matters, also like influencers, like that's a big thing. I work with a lot of like social media influencers.
Wow.
People like creatives in the film, television, and music industry. So it's just a broad range, and also retail, fashion, luxury goods, things like that.
Wow, that's awesome. And you have like all that experience from working in the Big Apple, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty awesome. So like, so are you working with anybody in particular? Do you have like any people like of counsel or that you go to if you want to talk about a case, or or is it just you right now?
So it's just me right now, but if I have to like outsource for certain litigation matters or things like that, that's definitely something that I will outsource. But
that's awesome. So, all right. So we talked about your New York experience. So like what advice, like we have a lot of like young attorneys and law students, like what advice would you give attorneys coming that, being like your own boss now, an entrepreneur, what would you tell them?
Be resilient, knock on a lot of doors, network. I mean, you have to just kind of put yourself out there and learn. Like if you're passionate about a particular area of law, like entertainment or IP, kind of do a little bit of research. If you're going to like a networking event or the speakers are there, kind of know who you're going to be speaking to and why you're speaking to them. Just kind of create like that impression and leave that lasting impression in their mind. And that's definitely what I would recommend. But it's all about experience. Like everybody learns first year law and, everybody I'm sure does well and things like that. But you just have to get that experience and get that under your belt as well, right? So if you want to practice, I think experience is number one. It's key.
Right, for sure. So like you're a business owner now. What's been the most challenging part of owning your business, and what's been like the best part of it?
The best part of it is my clients. It's the diversity of clients. It's definitely like working with different brands and different people on a daily basis. And, there's always things that come up and, I love my clients. The thing that is definitely challenging is just wearing the many hats. You have to be
Right.
the business, you have to do the accounting, the bookkeeping, the marketing.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like moving parts, but at the end of the day,
Right.
it's really rewarding. It's mine, right?
So it's been like a year and a half, you said, about, or
just shy of a year.
What's that?
Just shy of a year. So it's
Just shy. Wow. Okay. So it's just a baby. So have you found that like you had to create infrastructure, like, and have like, as you've gone, like it's evolved a little bit, like you've had to put certain things in place? Is that kind of how it goes when you open your own firm? Because you have, obviously, like you work with brands and stuff, and you have great branding. I hope everybody's seen your Instagram, Ranieri Law, and you really do a great job with that. So you definitely like know what you're doing. But I know there's like even with Lawyer Stories, as we grew a little bit, it was sort of like I needed to put things in place, or I was kind of missing things a little bit, or I'd have to go back and look at it again. And, it's just hard. It's like kind of growing pains a little bit, right? With like
it's a learning process.
It's a learning curve. Yeah. It's a learning process. So like, where do you see your firm in 5 to 10 years?
I would love to expand. I would love to expand to New York.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. Like, do you have, because by the way, like we have connections in New York. We know a lot of people in New York. So if you see somebody that's interesting, and I'm sure you have plenty too, but we'd love to help connect you with anybody in New York. So, so would you want to have an office there, or just somebody you associate with there if you had clients?
I would love to have an office there.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yep. And have someone, I have so many connections there as well. And I'd love to just kind of like partner up and maybe do something and collaborate. But yeah, that's basically like the end goal. I definitely want to expand.
So what's your favorite thing to do, like with your firm? Like what type of law is I know you like the IP and the brands and the small businesses, but is there one that you like, the certain cases that you like the best, things to work on the most?
I love like the copyright cases. Like there's so much going on right now, and even like the influencers and things like that. That's what I really, really enjoy.
We had somebody on our podcast a while back, had a big copyright case in the music industry. Mm-hmm. You should definitely check that out. I'll have to send it to you or something. It was really interesting. Maybe you can connect with that individual. It was a huge music case involving Robin Thicke and his song.
Oh yeah.
Do you know about that case?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we had the attorney who I think he represented him, and it was really, really interesting. when I was a kid, like I remember like, actually, did you represent him, or I should know this, but my mind's a little blur right now. But as a kid, like the copyright, I remember you remember like a rap group called Two Live Crew?
Yes.
They had like a whole issues with like music. I don't know if you're looking at like music copyright or whatever, but
Yeah. No, that was a big case too.
that was a big case. Yeah, there's a lot of those cases out there.
Yeah.
So I do want to go back into being like an entertainment IP attorney.
Okay.
Because I think I want to get like a little more specific and like find out for myself and the audience like what that actually means, like what you actually do when you're representing an IP. When you have a case, intellectual property case, or an entertainment client, like what exactly are you doing for them?
Yeah, no, sure. Basically do soft IP. So that's trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets. So basically protecting their brand, like yourself. I mean, what you're doing is genius. I think Lawyer Stories, like it's offering a platform for a lot of attorneys and young lawyers and law students, and giving them that platform, because I mean everybody has a story, everybody starts somewhere, and yeah, like I mean you have a brand, and I think what you're doing is absolutely great. You're doing a great job, and
Thank
I mean
you.
like your logo and everything like that, that's trademark law. And then if you have something creative, like if there's like a visual like artwork or things like that, that's copyright law. So there's so many different facets, I mean, with respect to brands and even entertainment, like people in the music industry, whether they want to start like a retail brand, they want to start a clothing line or things like that. There's so many different things, there's so many moving parts. There's the corporate work, and then there's the intellectual property, whether that's the trademarks, the copyrights, or I have people in the food and beverage industry, and they also have certain recipes and certain things that they want trade secrets on, like, so you have to protect that as well. So there's a lot of moving parts to the entertainment industry, and it's just a matter of working with the brand and what they're looking for long term. And yeah, basically that's what I do.
That's awesome. That's super interesting, especially for the Lawyer Stories piece of it. I mean, obviously I love to talk about it, but I did get a service mark at one point. So I don't know, like, we could talk about that. I don't, I don't want to end up with a huge bill tomorrow, but, but, we're happy to send you clients your way if we ever come across somebody. So yeah, I mean, it's all interesting stuff. I think you're in some like cutting edge pieces of law and new frontiers. But I mean, the copyright's obviously been there, but like brands and that's just all new. I mean, I think like that's developing, and if you go to court, like you have the chance to make precedent and like have a new, create an argument, and I think that's really interesting. I think that could be that's since it's sort of like an uncharted territory, you really have a lot of opportunity there. So
Absolutely. And you have to start from the beginning. That way it's done right. That way you're not you're not in court, right? So you have to protect the brand from the beginning. And that's basically what I do. And that's what I advise on.
so that's what you tell. What would you tell like a small startup? Just protect it from like.
So you got to do like the clearance searches. You have to, ensure that you file the registrations. You have to do the renewals. You have to protect certain things. And, even copyright, you have to file the copyright registrations and ensure that you have that certificate and things like that. That way, in the event that you go to court, you can show proof that you have a registration and you're awarded certain damages and things like that. So,
Well, let me ask you this. Like I've always heard, and I forgot what it's called, but some people say as long as there's proof of it, like that you were there first, like doing it sort of first, and you could show that to a court, like that's some sort of that is some sort of a copyright in itself. Do you know what I'm saying?
yes.
I forgot like the term of art for it, but I don't know.
Like willful damages, like willful, like if there's willful infringement or something like that.
Well, like if you've already been doing something for so long, and if somebody tries to do it, you're just like, hey, judge, look, this was from like 2017. I've been doing this longer. Like this should speak for itself. Sort of. I mean, that's like a negligent thing, but this should this should show you that
they have proof of registration. They're entitled to the work, their IP and things like that. And that's why they're awarded certain damages in the event that they do go to court, right? So if somebody infringes, I mean, like the rights of publicity. There's so much going on with celebrities and their photography, paparazzi taking photography, and then those photographers are now suing the celebrities because they're posting it on their social media without their consent, right? So there's a lot of that going on right now as well. So
Right. Yeah, ton of that. So what, did we leave anything out, Nicoletta? Like, I'm trying to think of like what we.
I don't think so.
I mean, we talked about 5 to 10 years from now, we want to expand to New York. You're in a very cutting edge type of law. I think, working with small startups and brands and doing IP, that's very interesting work. Do you think you're there to stay in Canada? Do you see yourself going back to New York?
Never say never. I don't know.
Never say never. Right. New York's amazing. I mean,
it's great. I think it's developing a little bit more. I think entertainment is such a big hub in California and New York. And I think things are like starting to roll over here. But I'd like to see it expand a little bit more here as well. But never say never. So I might end up in New York as well. So we'll see.
Let's just call those your two places for now.
Okay.
New York and Ontario. So like, all right, well, is there anything else that you wanted to say to the Lawyer Stories community today?
Honestly, I think we touched on everything. Like I said, I love what you're doing. Thank you so much for having me. It was such a great opportunity to talk about my story and speak about myself and my journey. And I hope like it just resonates with other people, and honestly, like never give up. If you have a passion, if you have drive, if you have like a certain vision, like go for it. Don't let it stop you.
Don't let anybody tell you can't do it. It's not for them to say, and those people don't matter to you. So, well, congratulations on all your success with Ranieri Law, and we hope it's to speak to you again at some point and see how you're doing. And we'll do the best we can to connect you whoever you need to be connected with. Lawyer Stories has some interesting things coming out, including on our website, which is being revamped. And so, Vaughan, Ontario, how can we get in touch with you?
I have a website. I have social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. So
nice.
Feel free to reach out anytime, Ben. I really appreciate the opportunity. It was so great chatting with you. And,
sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Ranieri Law, everybody. Wherever you are in the world today, enjoy yourselves. Cheers.